Hello and welcome to the Mini and the Any. Today I wanted to talk about something you find at the bottom of every company's about us. You ask about uh, from your bosses, or in a video game, you go and you select what quest you're gonna do, side quest, main quest, everything else like that. What our mission is, what the main quest of us as a community here in this little area, as individual people, as singular persons, and as a church, formalized or the informal, unity of all of us, the big C of all of us. But what our mission is. And I remember I was given this the secret to the keys to the kingdom when I was told it's very simple. We're all trying to get to know Christ better. We're all trying to get to know Christ better. That's what has always stuck out as something that every believer should be going after. We're just trying to get to know Christ better. And then it was further a little later on to, and we want to make Christ better known. So let's get into that. And as we do, I want to start with the thought of, kind of like the why. Why to get to know Christ better? Why would anyone want to or care today, or even, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years, 400 years, 1,900 and I believe 93 years as of right now? Why would we want to get to know Christ better? And what does that really mean? Well, to get to know Christ is fairly simple on its surface, but let's break it down, because that's kind of what we're here for, is to think about it in a just different way, light and angle, to give you guys an opportunity to hear it maybe how you haven't heard it before, to know who who was Christ, the Son of Man. Who was Jesus Christ, a Nazarene? Who is he today? It's hard to wrap your mind around someone who has died and resurrected. In order to get to understand how much he loves us, that's what it means to get to know Christ better. Who he was, who he is, and how much he loves us. And I'm not going to go into love, because that's a whole nother topic for another day. But who Christ was, who he was. At the very simplest terms, and now I'm going to ask you to roll with me here, right? A lot of people don't realize that belief is something that you kind of work on. And some people, it's just granted and given. Skepticism is not an absence of belief, but it's a struggle within. Maybe you want to believe and you just haven't been given that gift, or you haven't been in that realm. It honestly takes time. So who he was a man. He was a man who was begotten by God the Creator. In the Catholic Creed, it's begotten, not made, meaning he's not made different. He was one of God. He was one of God. Like, game developers, they make video games. They made them. But if they have children, they begot them. So he was a man who was begotten, not made, and lived a life in such a way that if you don't necessarily care to be a Christian or a follower of Christ, or to get to know God, but you just kind of want to emulate yourself after good people. I believe it's Mahatma Gandhi has a quote of, "I love who Christ was. I just don't care about the Christians because of the way in which he lived his life. He met the people in the streets, in the dirt, the lame, the sick, the cast out, the unwanted. He met them where they were with compassion and mercy. And then when it came to the people who were in places of authority, he didn't pull too many punches. He let them know exactly where he stood and exactly where he saw them standing, calling some of the most powerful people in the Jewish realm a brood of vipers is not a way to make friends, because he loved to stick up for the people who he believed were misrepresented and forgotten. And then how do we get to know who he is today, currently, as it is standing in the 21st century? How do we get to that point? It is very challenging because it takes time. It takes time. We don't like to give more than 20 seconds. Some people it takes a lifetime. Some of the most admirable theologians, people who study who God is for a living, would probably tell you that they have given their whole life and they're still trying to figure it out. But that's so fun. Who he is today. And this is why I'm just talking about the mission, not the end all be all. This is just the the framework in which we're going to approach things, because we need to have kind of like that understanding as we work forward, as we build up, that, oh wait, we're just trying to get to know him better. Not Notice how we're just trying to get to know Christ better, not to become perfect people and get to know Christ better. Because in all honesty, in doing that, we become new. We can become better people, yes, but all that comes in line as we face towards the Savior himself. And the final point of that is, as we understand who he was and who he is, something even more amazing starts to radiate out. We get to know how much he loves us. We start to realize how much he truly loves us. Yes, in the death and resurrection and going to the cross for us, yes, all that, I get you. But for some people, we haven't got to that point. And if you're that person who hasn't got to that point, take your time, but purposely walk forward. Martin Luther King said, if run if you can. If you can't run, then jog. If you can't jog, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Just keep going forward. That's the same thing here. Just don't turn away. Kind of make it a little purposeful. Make your points purposeful. Because when we know how much he loves us, and we start seeing that, we start seeing it in ourselves, and we start to realize that we are something to be loved, and maybe some of us just need to love ourselves better. It's a lot to go into. And then I'm going to try to wrap this up within the next couple of minutes. But the second point is to make Christ better known, like I already said. And all those points that have led up to this, because that's why we want to make him better known, and how we kind of go about doing it, but in a loving and charitable way. We don't really see that much anymore. And the reason because we want to make him better known is because everyone knows about Jesus. Like 8% of the world knows of the figure of Jesus from the Christian faith. Very well known of, to know of something. But not many people know who he is, was, or how much he loves them. That's the great missing piece for a lot of people. And if this isn't you, it's not you. I'm not even gonna, I won't be mad at you, right? If you put your time and effort in, great. How much he loves them is something that needs to be greatly understood. And how do we show people how much Jesus really loved them? We can try by telling them. It doesn't really work. We gotta do it by showing. We do it with our actions. We show with our actions. We live like Christ lived. We love like Christ loved. Again, I'll get into what love really is in the biblical sense. Take it back from Valentine's Day. With that, I need to allow for the opportunity of everyone to realize at some point, in some way, this is important. But why it is important is one of those things that you kind of got to work on. I could tell every little bit to you, but at the end of the day, you're not looking for someone to hand you a pamphlet. You're looking for, hopefully, someone to kind of just walk you through it, give you a little bit of a nudge, and just display it different, because maybe you didn't learn it or understand it or like it the first time. That's honestly fair. It's okay. Christians have done a really good job of doing a bad job at being like Christ quite often. Quite often. Everyone deserves to get to know what true, authentic, unreserved love looks like, and that comes from only Christ. The greatest parents, friends, and significant others, they really try, but it only pales in comparison to the great love that's from God, that's from Jesus. So with that, I hope it encourages you just a little bit, and you kind of understand which way we're trying to move to get to know Christ better. And in doing so, we hopefully make him better known. And we hopefully make this world just a little bit wholer. Till next time, take care.